Hello, welcome to my channel. My name's Martha and today I'm sharing a flip through of a journal that I have listed in my Etsy shop, and if you're interested in this journal I'll put the link to it in the description box below. It comes with this embellishment kit which I will go over at the end, but let me show you the journal. First of all, it has a cloth closure that I made out of sewing bits of fabric together, and most of the fabric is also tea dyed, and I made the cover out of canvas like fabric that is eco dyed. So it has some rust color, some leaves that you can see, and I strengthened the spine with a little bit of that same canvas fabric. This is tea dyed, this one's eco dyed, and a copy of a vintage photograph that I have. I really love that picture, and the original is actually torn in 2 or 3 places, so I made a copy of it to put on here, which I think actually looks better than the original photo, believe it or not. And that's how I decorated the front. So I didn't want to cover on the inside, I didn't want to cover the eco dyed plants and things that came out, so I didn't put anything on the front cover, on either inside covers. This is a page that I dyed using a stencil, and I actually made a video on how to do this and how I just dye papers in general. It's really super easy, but it comes out great. I didn't decorate this a lot, but I did add a few things, which of course I'll go over. This is some eco dyeing I did on paper. I believe mixed media type of paper. It came out a bit distressed and like crinkled, but I love the way that looks, and I had a few pieces of this left, a couple of pieces, so I put one in this journal. This is just some brown packaging paper, some crinkly onion skin tracing paper type of paper that I tea dyed. This is a book page that I just brayered extra paint off of. I use that technique when I'm gel printing. I'll have pieces of book page or sheet music off to the side, and I'll just brayer extra paint, or in this case it looks like I also gel printed extra paint off of on here. And this is a little card from a vintage game, kids game. This is some more eco dyeing that I did more recently, and I just love the colors, the way this came out. It's on watercolor, smooth watercolor paper, and I'm actually working on a video showing how I do the eco dyeing, which will be out in a few days, I hope. This is a vintage looking bag. I think a lot of people have these, and it's like a pocket that I put a t-shirt, what? I was reading something about jackets and shirts on here. This is a piece of scrapbook paper that's like a postcard I slipped in there. Some vintage music paper. This is a German invoice from 1952, pretty color. Vintage dictionary that I have. I tea dyed it. It tore a little bit. I added some masking tape, which I think adds to the nice grungy feel of this book. And then here's tea dyed paper that I sprayed, actually laid down a piece of lace and sprayed through that. I was testing that out and I thought it came out pretty cool. An old time card, that's an index card. This is more eco dyeing on a very old counting ledger that I have from 1905-06 time frame, and it just makes beautiful eco prints, as you can see. This is some brown paper grocery bag. I crumple it up and then flatten it out and iron it. I think it makes a really cool texture. This is an architectural or engineering drawing from my husband, the engineer. He gives me these instead of throwing them away. And you can see that I must have had some of that accounting ledger right there when I put my eco dyed bundles together, because some of the printing actually transferred onto there, which is pretty cool. This is a German book paper that I also brayered extra paint on. This is a library pocket that I decorated and then put some vintage inspired pieces in. I did back those with my tea dyed dictionary papers. I think this is a vintage e-tag. Not that old, but it's a cool tag. And some graph paper. And this is actually avocado pit dyed paper, another technique that's super easy. And if you watch my paper dyeing video, you know that I often get my colors mixed in together because I'm not that extra careful, but I like the look, so I don't mind that. And that graph paper, that German book page, the other side of that engineering paper. I made this into a little tuck spot, and these aren't vintage, but these are old trade cards, they called them, that are vintage. And some more eco dyeing, tea dyed. There's that lace again that I use the spray through. And then this is actually a mistake that I made, and I turned it into something that I think is kind of cool. I usually decorate my pages and then sew them into the cover. And this is a good reason why I should always do that. But for some reason, and I just forgot, I didn't do it this way. So I was trying to sew this fabric on, and I sewed 2 pages together by mistake. And when I saw that, I thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to take that apart and fix it. But I had a better idea. I made this into a pocket by just folding the page over and gluing it down. Added a little bit of lace and put in an old vintage flashcard, math flashcard. So and sewed along here, of course, to make it into a pocket. So I thought that was a cool thing, way to fix my mistake. There's that paper again, and the other side of that bag, and I cut down the side of that and just put some vintage inspired pieces. They're not that old, and in there, some more eco dyeing, and that book page. And this is another library pocket. I made this into a little pocket with a slide, and these are little Tim Holtz pieces that he makes, the coolest vintage looking things. I backed it with the vintage dictionary paper, and this is from a scrapbook paper that I honestly do not remember. I backed it with the vintage dictionary, but I don't remember what that scrapbook paper came from. I just had this little scrap left, which I think is beautiful. I wish I remembered because I would like to buy more. The onion skin, there's the eco printing. I just love the way that looks. I honestly don't even think I could do that again if I tried. I think these are daisies, but I don't even remember how I did that, to be real honest. Then I made a pocket on the last page, and I put in these 2 little vintage pieces. This is an actual postcard, and it says Conchita Citron, famous woman bullfighter from Mexico. Isn't that cool? And it's a little postcard somebody sent in 1946 and has a little note. And this is a vintage piece. It came from a scrapbook, so I don't know how old it is or exactly what it is, but I thought it fit with Conchita, the bullfighter. And that's the end of my journal. It's the back cover. And let me go over quickly what's in the embellishment kit. Let me move this over here because it has some cool stuff in it. So I won't go through everything because it's too much. I have some bits of lace and yarn and fabrics and just a bunch of little doodads that I thought would look nice. These are some actual vintage photos and a vintage cigarette card, they're called, and a vintage ticket and doily. I threw in some buttons, some stickers. These are some actual vintage stamps and some little bits, scraps of my mixed media, a vintage playing card, another tag. These are old copies of old ads. They're not vintage, they're from a book that I have that I cut out. And those pictures. I think these are called lotto or bingo cards. I'm not even sure, but I love the way they look. Library catalog card. Okay. I have a vintage prescription from 1941. I love those. A vintage postcard. I couldn't find a year on this, but you can obviously see that it's pretty old, and it was mailed to, or I'm not even sure it was mailed because, you know, it doesn't have a postage stamp, but anyway, I love those flowers, and they're kind of like embossed, so they have a texture. And then I have these old ads from a book. It's a very strange book of vintage ads. The book is a little bit old itself. I don't know what year it comes from, but they have some really funny, interesting ads, like this collapsible scissors. Like, they look like the real thing. I guess it's supposed to be a joke. I don't know, but these are interesting. Some vintage music paper that I just love the color of this. I just think it's beautiful. Some paper, old paper with some French writing and numbers on it, some scribbles, an envelope. It's not that old, from 1979, but I like the color of it, and it has some stamps too. Some miscellaneous vintage book pages I thought were nice, and this is actually, it looks like it's tea dyed, doesn't it? But it's not. It actually came like that, which I think is cool too. Some more different color sheet music, Asian writing, and a book from, a book page from a floral book. So I thought it was a really nice, a nice page, a nice little kit to use to embellish this journal or any journal or mixed media that you're working on. So thanks for watching, and please, if you half enjoyed the video, consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribe. But if you've stuck with me this far, I'm going to put up on the screen a 10% discount code from this journal if you're interested in purchasing it. And again, the link is down below in the description box. Thanks again, and see you soon.